body of a Salvadorian woman killed by Mexican police arrives in El Salvador. At least 22 Indian soldiers have been killed in a gunfight with Maoist rebel fighters. And more than 50 people have been killed after flash floods swept Indonesia. Hello and welcome to TeleSUR English. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the south. The body of 36-year-old Salvadorian woman who died at the hands of Mexican police have arrived in El Salvador. The coffin with Victoria Salazar's remains landed in the country 1 week after her death, and it was escorted by police to a funeral parole in Western Sonsonate department. Salazar died on Saturday after being detained by the police in Tulum, a Mexican resort town on the Yucatan Peninsula. Autopsy showed that her neck had been broken. Police opened an investigation into the incident, which resulted in the arrest of 3 policemen and 1 policewoman. They were all charged with femicide.
This is hard to swallow. It brings up a lot of mixed emotions. There is so much pain and consternation.
Ecuador's largest indigenous organization, CONAIE, has thrown its support behind socialist presidential candidate Andrés Arauz ahead of the April runoff vote. Jaime Vargas, president of the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities, has expressed his support of Arauz and his presidential campaign agenda. Vargas, however, warned Andrés Arauz that if, as a president, he doesn't fulfill his promises to Ecuador's indigenous movements, then they will return to the streets, just like in October 2019, when indigenous movements paralyzed the country over the cancellation of gasoline subsidies. Economist Arauz faces former banker Guillermo Lasso in the runoff election set to take place on April 11.
Andrés Arauz, your proposals have the absolute support of the indigenous movements of Ecuador. This is the decision of our leaders. Whatever happens, whatever comes, economist Andrés Arauz has the support of all indigenous peoples of the Ecuadorian Amazon.
Ecuador has declared a new 30-day state of emergency in 8 provinces, including the capital, as hospitals struggle to handle a new surge of COVID-19 cases and 8 days of curfew amid of crowds and gatherings fueling new outbreaks of the pandemic. The state of emergency was declared just a day ahead of the Easter weekend and will last until the end of April. A nightly curfew between 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. is implemented during the first week, while cars can only circulate on every other day, depending on their plates. Beaches, national parks, city parks, gyms, theaters, and cinemas are closed, while malls can operate with 50% capacity. Ecuador has registered over 330,000 cases, while nearly 16,900 people have died. Intensive care units are also working near full capacity. Argentine President Alberto Fernandez has tested positive for COVID-19. President Fernandez, who has been vaccinated against COVID-19, said that his antigen test came back positive after a slight fever and a headache. He is now waiting for the results of a PCR test as well. The president, who turned 62 on Friday, was in isolation as a precaution, but he said that he was physically well. Fernandez was inoculated with the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, and his second shot was on February 11th. Argentina is facing a second wave of the coronavirus with a sustained rise in cases. The country of 44 million people has recorded more than 2.3 million infections and over 55,000 deaths from COVID-19. The Mexican capital, usually busy with hundreds of thousands of worshippers during Easter celebrations, was calm on Friday as pandemic restrictions affected the Passion of the Christ reenactment that has been performed in the city for almost 2 centuries. For the past 170 years, the ceremony has offered an economic boom for the sprawling borough of Iztapalapa. However, authorities only allowed the religious ceremony to be held behind closed doors for the second year running due to the pandemic. Mexico has registered a total of more than 200,000 COVID-19 deaths, while untested but suspected victims bring that toll to over 320,000. Cuban health authorities have reported success in applying the domestically produced drug nasalferon to people infected with COVID-19 as part of the improved protocol for confronting the disease. Our correspondent in Havana, Fabiola Lopez, brings us more details in the following report.
In Boyeros municipality, in the capital of Cuba, nurse Anaisa sets out to verify the use of nalsalferon in this family contact of a positive COVID-19 case, as she does every day.
It's been really great. I have not had any adverse reactions, and I feel quite well. I have improved a lot. I had a little burning in the throat at the beginning, and that disappeared. I have felt good, and we tested negative in the PCR that we took. And how much did the nasalferon cost? Nothing, of course. It's only here in Cuba that you see that free medicine, free care.
The country's strategy is that all persons who are a contact of a confirmed case should institutionally isolate it. But in territories such as Havana, where the greatest number of cases is reported, home isolation includes measures similar to the care provided in isolation centers.
An epidemiological survey is carried out. The epidemiological survey is conducted with every patient tested positive to an antigen or PCR test. All home and outside of the home contacts of the patient are traced, and nasalferon supplies are located and applied in all polyclinics with established cold chain.
When it is going to be applied, the basic health team, either the doctor or the nurse, explains how the drug is going to be used. That is very easy to handle, for all ages too, although it is not being used in pediatric care. A drop is applied in each nostril every 12 hours. That is 4 drops for 10 days, which makes up the 40 drops that the bottle contains. Nalsalferon is a drug developed by Cuban biotechnology, derived from interferon, which, according to its developers, prevents the replication of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and modifies the number of colonies present in the body, in addition to strengthening the immune system.
Medically, nasalferon is a product that is applied with a prophylactic purpose, which means to prevent infection. In this case, by SARS-CoV-2, the immunomodulatory properties of interferon help to strengthen your immune system in the absence of the virus, so that when the individual is exposed to the virus, the immune system is able to fight it more strongly and thus avoid infection. And in the case infection does occur, the antiviral effect of interferon helps to ensure that the disease, in the case of COVID-19, develops with less intensity, symptomatology, and duration in the individual.
With 93% effectiveness, nalsalferon has been applied to medical personnel in the red zone of hospitals, where the fight against COVID-19 is waged, and to health collaborators working abroad. It is also being supplied to travelers and those who lived with them, and to tourist sector workers.
The Cuban Protocol of Action against COVID-19 always took into account as one of the fundamental guidelines to use of prophylactic drugs to prevent infection and passage of sick individual to stages of severity and chronicity.
Dr. Hugo Nordarce explains that there are 3 key principles to the Cuban Protocol of Action against COVID-19. That people don't get sick, that if they do get sick, they don't deteriorate to a worse condition, and that if they do, they don't die.
Fabiola Lopez, TeleSUR, La Habana.
And we'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. The African Union Center of Disease Control and Prevention has acquired additional 400 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. The institution's director, John Kenasong, announced that they have signed a contract with the vaccine company Johnson & Johnson to supply the doses to African nations. Countries continue to record a steady increase in new COVID-19 cases, with at least 3% increase around the continent over the past 4 weeks.
The deal is actually structured, or the agreement is actually structured such that 220 million doses will be available, with an option of increasing the purchase of an additional 180 million doses for a total of 400 million. The vaccines supplies will be from the Aspen Biopharma plant in South Africa.
Congo's opposition party has called on the country's constitutional court to annul the results of the recent presidential election. The Union of Humanist Democrats claims that their leader, Guy Brice Parafil Colelas, who died from COVID-19 in France recently, won the elections. The Republic of Congo's president, Denis Sassou Nguesso, was re-elected after securing an 88.5% win. Meanwhile, Colelas took 7.8% of the vote, according to the results, which can be appealed to the Constitutional Court.
Political Bureau of Union Humanist Democrats invites the Constitutional Court to rule on the law and therefore to pronounce the pure and simple annulment of the provisional results of the elections of 17 and 21 March.
Kenya has strongly criticized the United Kingdom for red listing the country as a COVID-19 hotspot. Kenya's Foreign Affairs Ministry condemned the UK's decision to impose travel restrictions on Kenyan passengers, barring them from entering England starting from April 9th. Kenya is among 4 countries that have been added to the UK's red list amid concerns about new COVID-19 variants. Christian worshippers in Ivory Coast have been asked to limit gatherings during Easter to avoid the spread of the virus. The country's vaccination campaign began last month, while authorities maintain to call for people to wear masks, wash their hands, and respect social distancing. Religious sites around the world are open to limited numbers of worshippers. According to the Johns Hopkins University, Ivory Coast has registered over 44,400 COVID-19 cases and 250 deaths. French energy company Total has withdrawn all of its stuff from its Anfungi natural gas site in northern Mozambique after the Islamic attack on Palma. According to company sources, Total had decided to withdraw its stuff as militants appeared to get closer to the site. The company also last week called off the planned resumption of construction at the 20 billion development due to violence. They have not yet issued a statement on that decision. Libya has received its first batch of Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccines. A shipment of more than 100,000 doses of the Russian vaccine landed at Tripoli's main airport on Sunday. Libya's Ministry of Health said that this is the first shipment of vaccines to reach the country. Around 1,000 new infections are registered daily by the National Center for Disease and Control, posing a challenge to health sector ravaged by years of conflict. Libya has recorded almost 200,000 infections since the beginning of the pandemic and nearly 2,700 deaths. The former Jordan Crown Prince Hamza bin Hussein has been placed under house arrest. Hussein has said that he was visited early Saturday by the country's military chief, who told him that he was not allowed to go out, communicate, or meet with people. Hamza said that he had been informed he was being punished for taking part in meetings in which the king had been criticized, though himself was not accused of being a direct critic. The country's military early denied that the former crown prince was under house arrest. Anti-coup demonstrators in Myanmar decorated boiled eggs on Easter Sunday in the latest protest against the country's military junta. Myanmar protesters decorated eggs with political messages and left them on neighbors' doorsteps and hanging in bags in front of gates. Pictures posted on social media show eggs adorned with Suki's likeness and three-finger salutes, a symbol of resistance, while others said save our people and democracy. Their demonstration came after 4 protesters were killed Saturday in the cities of Bago and Moniwa, putting the death toll to 557 since the protests began in early February.
The young people who don't want to stay under the military dictatorship, they are going out on their own free will for the country, for the people. That's why they join us and help us to fight against the military junta. The soldiers are threatening to shoot the people using their power when we go out. So we are doing this mobile strike peacefully so they cannot shoot us.
At least 22 Indian soldiers have been killed and 30 others wounded in a gunfight with Maoist rebels fighters. The fighting erupted when Indian security forces raided a rebel hideout in Bijapur district on Saturday. This was India's deadliest engagement with the Maoist rebels in 4 years. Indian soldiers have been battling with Maoists across central and northern states since 1967. The rebel fighters claimed to defend rights of indigenous tribes and other marginalized groups. The cricket world have united to send support to Indian legend Sachin Tendulkar after he was hospitalized with COVID-19. The 47-year-old little master of batting is one of the most high-profile cases in India. Tendulkar is the highest run scorer ever in Test matches and one-day internationals. He retired in 2013 after playing in 200 Tests, in which he made close to 16,000 runs. Many Indian Premier League teams released messages. Champions to the Mumbai Indians, where Tendulkar is advisors, say they were rooting for the batting star. Former Pakistan arch rival Wasim Arkan also sent special wishes.
Sachin Tendulkar is a god of cricket. We call him as a god. Okay, so I feel that he will recover in some short time.
Along with me, I don't think there's anyone in the world who is not praying to God for the speedy recovery of Sachin Tendulkar. We pray that Sachin Tendulkar will defeat coronavirus and return home very soon in good health from the hospital.
More news in a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back. More than 50 people have been killed after flash floods and landslides swept through eastern Indonesia. Floods sparked by torrential rain caused havoc and destruction on islands stretching from Flores Island in Indonesia to Timor-Leste, a small nation east of the Indonesia archipelago. The floods and subsequent landslides also caused dams to overflow, submerging thousands of houses. Injured victims have been evacuated to neighboring villages that were not affected. Rescuers are struggling to reach the more remote areas, eastern Flores Regency, because of rains and strong waves. Still in Indonesia, a collision between a cargo ship and a fishing boat have killed at least 2 fishermen and left 15 others missing in Java. The fishing boat capsized late on Saturday with 32 aboard after hitting the Indonesian bulk carrier MV Havoc Pioneer late Saturday in the Merayu district. The head of Indonesia's Search and Rescue Agency said 2 bodies were recovered Sunday. One of the dead was trapped in a fishing net beneath the surface and another found inside a sunken vessel. The remaining 15 crew were rescued. Meanwhile, local fishermen and Navy continue searching for others. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that his trip to Vienna for nuclear negotiations would not involve talks with the United States either directly or indirectly. He added that Iran's demand was for all sanctions to be lifted before it returned to fully comply with the accord.
In Vienna, we won't have any talks with Americans, either directly or indirectly. We are negotiating with the Joint Commission of the Nuclear Deal, meaning the 4+1 countries. We will rely to them. Our demand and condition for returning to the nuclear deal. Our demand is that America must first resume complying with its entire commitments in the nuclear deal and lift the whole sanctions. After it is done, we will verify and return to the deal as well. We have no step-by-step plan for Iran and the U.S. for returning to the nuclear deal. We won't accept such a plan. We believe there is only one step, which is that America must remove all sanctions that were reimposed during Donald Trump's era against us, or those that were recently imposed in another shape or form.
11 people have been killed and 19 people were injured after a truck and a passenger bus collide in eastern China. The accident happened in early hours of Sunday with the truck crossing the central divide in the middle of a highway. in the eastern province of Jiangsu and collided with a bus traveling on the opposite direction, causing the bus to overturn. Two other trucks driving behind the bus also rolled over when they attempted to avoid the accident. Bulgarians have gone to the polls to elect bracelets and a ring. Tapi was found guilty in a string of cases for corruption, tax fraud, and misuse of corporate assets. He went to prison for 5 years and was stripped of the right to stand in any election in France.
They were woken up in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning by 4 individuals who attacked them with extreme violence, who hit them, who tied them up, who pulled her by the hair, because obviously there was treasure somewhere and they had to find it. But there is no treasure. I think that their violence was all the stronger because they didn't get anything, because overall there wasn't much to take.
Hundreds of people in the United Kingdom have rallied against the government's police, crime sentencing, and courts bill. Demonstrators say that they fear the new police bill will severely restrict their right to protest. The proposed bill, which passed its second reading in the parliament last month, is set to modify existing public order legislations to make it easier for police to ban peaceful protests if they are considered likely to cause disorder. Entered a 3-day nationwide lockdown in a bid to fight new wave of coronavirus pandemic. All regions are now classified as red zones, with almost all shops shut down. Restaurants and bars are open for takeaway only, and people are only allowed to go out for essential reasons. Residents are allowed to exercise near their relatives during the weekend is also permitted, but limited to 1 visit per day. Italy reported 376 coronavirus deaths on Saturday and over 21,200 new cases.
Limited movements are allowed for family matters. In conjunction with the habits of the Italian families who gather in this period, movements are allowed only within certain time slots, 2 persons and minors only, and once per day. Businesses and shops are momentarily closed, so there is less movement of people because the more people go around, the more the contagion risk.
And we come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. And don't forget to join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.